can you please read the notice, please?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by mailing a schedule of the Township Committee to the Express Times and North Star Ledger newspaper, posting a copy on the Township Bulletin Board, and filing a copy with the Township Clerk.
Can you please join me in a salute to the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Perez.
Here.
Siegel. Here. Valari.
Here.
Miliani. Here. Torriello.
Here. Before we move to the public comment section of tonight's meeting, last Saturday we had a very tragic, sudden loss of a beloved member of the legal community, long-standing, really a pillar of local governance law and a special counsel to Greenwich Township, Stuart Coney. And he died last Saturday in the morning, suddenly of cardiac arrest, while doing the thing that he loved most in life, which was playing tennis. And he leaves behind a son and a daughter and a wife. And we just ask that we have a moment of silence in remembering Mr. Coney. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the, before we go there, I'm sorry, a motion to open up for public comment. This section of public comment is reserved for agenda items only. And given the number of folks in attendance tonight, I would ask that the comments be limited to 3 minutes to each person so that we can ensure that everyone can be heard.
Make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to be heard on any agenda item, please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address. You want to do that separately?
You could, or you could move it up to now.
Okay, let's, you want to do, we're going to reserve the rumble strips. So any comment for, the suggestion is we'll have a public comment period for anything other than the rumble strips. And then we'll have a special comment period just for the rumble strips. Okay.
Gary Hill, 529 North Main Street. I'm here about the second reading on the parking ordinance, 2012-15.
We're going to have a separate comment period for that.
There's actually a public
There's
hearing.
a public hearing on that, so I would ask you to reserve on that. You'll have an opportunity to be heard on that, I promise. Okay?
Any updates on it? So I know what to expect.
We'll get to that, we'll get to that in a
Public
second.
hearing,
Okay, so everyone else, I'm assuming, is here for either rumble strips comment or the second reading. So, seeing no other hands, a motion to close this section of public comment period?
Make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports for court and police?
Make the motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Miliani. Yes. Valari.
Yes.
Torriello.
Yes. Can I have a motion for the payment of bills and claims?
Make the motion.
Second. Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Miliani. Yes. Valari.
Yes.
Torriello.
Yes. And with respect to, can I have a motion for resolution 2012-74, which is a municipal tax redemption in the amount of $899.35 for block 23.21, lot 61.
Make the motion.
Second. Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Miliani. Yes. Valari.
Yes.
Torriello.
Yes. And can I have a motion to adopt resolution 2012-75, which is a refund of unused escrow monies in the amount of $265.75 to a Mr. Ritchie?
Make the motion.
Second. Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Miliani. Yes. Valari?
Yes.
Cordero?
Yes. And I think we'll now move into my agenda items. And before we start with the ordinance and the rumble strips, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge something very special in our community. In 2000, in Georgia, there was a local Rotary had started a Miracle League to develop and build facilities for special needs children. And this year, through the efforts of many local residents, including our longtime resident and longtime engineer, Michael Finelli, and Finelli Consulting, had, it wasn't on the agenda for a particular reason, sir, had dedicated his time and talents so that the dream of bringing a facility in this area for special needs children could come true. And on September 9th of this year, they had their opening day. And sorry I could not have been there to share in that moment, but I just wanted, we, the Township Committee, just wanted to take a moment to recognize your efforts and your dedication, Michael, really, and in recognition of your generous support and commitment to the Miracle League organization of Northampton County. We honor you and your firm for donating all of the engineering and surveying services towards the planning and construction of the Easton Rotary Field at the Corinne Community Center, and your contribution has positively impacted the lives of so many children with physical and intellectual disabilities. Thank you for playing so much an integral role in bringing much happiness to so many. And as I said, the opening day dedication celebration on September 9th could not have been possible without Finelli Consulting Engineers.
Here somewhere.
As you folks certainly know, and the members of the audience that come here from time to time, I'm rarely at a loss for words. And that's very surprising and very much appreciated. And I will say, I said this to our staff as this project has proceeded, and is that why you're here? My wife is, did you know about this?
No, I'm here for the rumble strip.
Yeah, Mrs. Finelli is not a typical attendee, so the word must have got out on the street. In any event, as I was saying, Leela and I have had the opportunity to go to some more intimate Miracle League functions as this started and moved forward, and actually speak with parents and see some of these kids, and it was really very heartwarming. And that, I mean, it was never a question after we volunteered to do the project of it being the right thing to do. And as it progressed, I said to my staff, and many times I said, we should all be very, very proud of what we've done. And it's by far and away I would say the single biggest contribution I have made in my professional career. And I want to thank you very much. That's very kind of you folks to I didn't even know you knew about it. Because this was really done out of Pennsylvania, of course. So thank you very, very much. I'm very humbled and honored.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'd like to call for a motion to open up for a public hearing for a second reading of ordinance 2012-15, which is an ordinance prohibiting parking from a point beginning 75 feet from the southerly sideline of Rainaway northerly for a distance of 225 feet, situated on the west side of North Main Street.
Make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to be heard on the ordinance 2012-15, please come up, state your name and address.
Gary Hill, 529 North Main Street. I spoke at the first reading about the ordinance, and I expressed my concerns. I've been in touch with the county engineer's office to express my concerns with them as well, since it is a county road. Obviously, through legislation, parking things are passed down to the municipalities. However, the purpose of that is to create more parking for the residents, not actually to take it away. While I understand the need, that it is a hazardous situation from time to time, something as simple as communications with the vehicles that are in question would have gone a long way. I've spoken with those homeowners. They were not contacted at all or expressed a concern that their parking was causing a problem. The fact of it being 125 feet going to the north, 75 feet to the south, I understand the line of sight distance. I did a little bit of research on it. But even the county engineer felt that 125 feet going to the north was pretty excessive. We have a lot more traffic right down here at the intersection of South Main and Greenwich and Washington and North Main. And those distances are only 50 feet from the intersection of parking. Right now, I was trying to print out a picture of it, but I have my daughter's car parked 75 feet from the entrance to the driveway, and for a 25-mile-an-hour street, it is more than adequate. More than adequate. And to go 125 feet is just a little crazy. Granted, we don't have every single intersection marked for prohibited parking, 125 feet at every intersection in the town, but if we go with one driveway and we try to go with 225 feet of no parking in either direction, we're going to have a lot more all the way down North and South Main Street to deal with as well. And there's going to be a lot of upset people because you're going to take a lot of parking away. I spoke with Mike, the town engineer, earlier in the week. They talked about the possibilities of going with 75 feet. I don't think he was totally against it, but at the same time, he was initially acting under the wishes of what Township Committee did on your first reading. Again, I think just the fact of speaking with people, I think we could have saved a big headache here. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard on the parking ordinance? Seeing no hands, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
Excuse me.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, can I have a motion to
Can we?
comment?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering why we went so, why would the distance?
Okay, I'm glad you decided it before you voted. I'll answer your question in a second. But when this issue first came up, and I was involved in some of the email exchange, Doris, Kim, the mayor, and then it prompted the solution to the problem being the parking restriction, and then of course, which has now become the ordinance that we're here to discuss and eventually vote on. I talked to Kim, and I said to Kim, I said, has somebody talked to these guys? Because the primary complaint is these contractors with these big trucks that are parking right on both sides of where Rain Away meets North Main Street. And I understood, which, that's the way it works sometimes. They opted to park on the street versus park in their driveways, which they're entitled to do. Okay, fine. So we proceeded with the ordinance, which which then when we had to develop the restrictions on both sides, you know, if you're exiting right away, you've got to look obviously to the south or to the north. It's all about sight distance. We looked at the speed limits, the speed limit of North Main Street. And the problem is there's a slight curvature in North Main Street as you approach Raina Way. So the 125 feet is a little excessive, but it certainly gives you a clear line of sight, more so than 75 feet. I mean, 75 feet would be a large improvement over what's there now, which is nothing. But the point I'm getting to, and this is from the conversation with Gary earlier this week, I guess, or recently, is that he said he's talked to these fellas, well, these people, I'm assuming they're fellas, and that they've said, okay, sorry, we didn't know, and we'll agree not to park there. Now, this was never a problem. Rainaways existed, that road's existed a long time until these contractor trucks decided to start parking there. And I understand, because they're big, full-size pickups, SUVs, and they block the sight distance. I mean, we've all driven by them. But I guess, is it, I mean,
But the township committee didn't decide on the site distance.
No, you didn't decide on the site distance. I'm bringing up.
Because the way that Mr. Hill made it sound as though this governing body decided that 125 feet, we don't.
No, the 125 feet is 100% Mike Finelli's distance. I am 100% responsible for the determination of that. And that's based on,
because of the road.
and that's based upon a site distance analysis. Now, I did look, after I spoke with Gary, I did go out again and look. And if you would, hypothetically, he suggested 75 feet, so I looked at 75 feet. 75 feet would decrease the available sight distance looking to the north at a car exiting Raina Way slightly, but not that much, really, based upon the curvature of the road, because it's not an exact 90. So I'm not, my recommendation was 125 feet. And I certainly am going to stick by that based upon the engineering analysis conducted by our office.
I would say this, Michael, you know, I don't think the township committee should be interested in compromising site visibilities, you know, to accommodate the interest of a particular resident. I think we have a fiduciary obligation to the safety of the town as a whole. And if you're more comfortable with the 125, and that's what you recommended, it's just thinking out loud. I think we need to look to the ordinance that makes sense for the protection of the safety of all residents, as opposed to compromising that safety, you know, to advance the interest of one. And to the extent that a truck has parked there, and to the extent that a truck is allowed to park there, I view it as this is a situation that an issue has been brought to the governing body's attention. We were fortunate enough that it was brought to our attention without any, you know, accident where someone has, you know, sustained bodily injury. But it's kind of like, now that we know about it, you know, and the fact that, you know, no township committee knew about it beforehand, I would suspect that's why there's been no action taken, because the issue wasn't brought to the fore. But now that we know about it, I think we have an obligation to, you know, to address it the best way possible. And if you're saying 125 is, you know, the appropriate distance to maximize safety, then I think that should be the number we should be guided by. You know, unless you can say 75 will provide the same level of safety as 125, and that's not what I'm hearing.
Hey, Mike, is that distance gauged on the speed of the roadway?
Yes.
Hey, Chief,
Yes.
I've seen that speed sled out there a lot of times on Main Street, things like that. Does that record data?
No.
It doesn't at all?
Does not, no.
No.
When that was purchased, that type of equipment wasn't available. That was purchased, I think, in probably 2000 or 2001, something, yeah, it was early, yeah. And they didn't have that type of.
That was one of the questions I had.
I was just saying, what's the average, I mean, what's the average speed on Main Street? I mean, is it plus or minus 5 miles an hour over under, or is it?
When we're
is it
there,
25, you just gauge it on 25
When
miles?
you're there,
When we're there, I'd say it's pretty close to within 10 miles an hour. When we're not there, it's anywhere between, I'd say, 10 to 15. Later in the evening, even faster, because they're coming out at 35, into town in that essence.
So Mike, was that distance factored in on 25 miles an hour only, or was it an average, or plus or minus? I'm trying to get a feel of the meter.
The way it works is,
I'm thinking worst case scenario is what I'm getting at. If
Well-
somebody's clicking at 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, do you think that distance is sufficient? All I need is one. I'm just saying,
well, no,
one
no.
scenario.
If you're asking me that question, I have to say no.
he's got
I was gonna say,
guidelines.
you're going
Because,
500
yeah,
feet the other way.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just trying to
But
get an.
when you're doing a site distance analysis, you have to utilize the speed limit of the roadway in question, which is 25. But the site distance and there's various, there's stopping site distance, passing site distance, there's various parameters based upon conditions and speed limits. The speed limit that you design around doesn't assume that the vehicle is going 25. It assumes that the vehicle really is going 35. There's a factor of safety
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
based
I-
upon the speed limit that you're designed for. So it's not, it's not quite,
Okay.
it's exactly 25.
Can I ask a question? So, how did this all start? One resident expressed concern over the
Is it-
parking?
There were
Well,
several residents.
There were several residents, and I guess my question has to do with, I know, Kim, I mentioned this to you numerous times, the car that parks out here in front
I
of
know.
the municipal building, or down, in front of, when they're in front of the American Legion, when you can't, the site is blocked here as well. And I know there's no parking restrictions, but no one's raising that as an issue. So I guess, I understand the complete safety of all the residents, but it sounds like we're handling it in one area and we're not, it's not an issue someplace else, even though it's right here in front of us, the municipal building. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying that, are we responding to one resident? Or
No.
numerous complaints?
No, I think Kim raised, there were several residents who made a complaint, but that doesn't mean that we can't do an analysis beyond that and check. I don't disagree with that, but
Mike, would it still be safe if you were to reduce it from the 125, or are you saying that it would be against your better judgment to reduce it?
Well,
You just said it? So what he said?
well,
I must have missed it.
I didn't, I'll be honest. Let me show you.
So you want honest the first time?
Mike, you're on.
Excuse me?
I said Roy's on.
I don't want to waste anybody's
No,
time.
okay. This, real quick. Here's a plan that we developed based upon the existing conditions to assess the site distance at the intersection, Rainaway, Main Street. Okay, this is what created the 75 feet looking to the south and the 125 looking to the north. All right, because that worked. We did this 75 feet, and I understand where Gary's coming up with 75 feet, because in one respect, it makes, it kind of makes it symmetrical, if you will, as far as the parking restrictions on both sides of the intersection, of the roadway, of the intersecting roadway, which does make some good engineering sense. If you would like, and Brent, hypothetically, we can carry this till next month without any other notice, correct?
For a second reading on this exact
Yes.
ordinance? Yeah, you could
Okay.
take this ordinance. If you're gonna change the ordinance, it'll require a first reading.
Well, right, but I could just double check back at the office on what 75 feet does for us. To be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna compromise the sight distance very much, and that's just based upon the way the curvature of the road
The
works.
problem is you're saying very much, which necessarily means there is a compromise.
Well, that's
That's the
why I
concern
am
that I
not,
have.
that's why I can't say tonight at the public hearing that it's gonna be okay, and that's why I'm saying if we can table it till next month, then I can actually sit, I can go to my office and lay it out and come up and see if that 50-foot reduction changes the sight distance 5 feet, which really would be negligible, or 50 feet, which would not be negligible. And then therefore I'd come back and say, no, it's 125 feet. That's all, I mean, to just allow me some further examination at 75 feet.
So we'll table it for next month.
If you're, that's obviously up to you folks.
Yeah, as long as we can, it's not gonna affect notice or anything like that.
Okay.
Let's table it.
We'll table it.
I just got one more question on Mike. On here stated 225 feet. Is that a misprint?
No, no, you know what, Dan? Let me show, I'm gonna get up and show you this. 225 feet is see, 75 feet this way, is going north, and 225 all the way to this point. So the entire restriction, yeah, this is the width of the entire restriction is 225. So
I just wanted to be certain.
because you're missing the right way around.
Okay, so we need a motion to table? A motion to table the second reading of ordinance until the regularly scheduled October meeting. Yes.
Second.
Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Yes.
Oriello?
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda are the rumble strips. I'm sure most of you are here tonight for that item. We'll open up for public comment. We sent the letter out. There's been ongoing discussion with respect to the speeding in the hamlet of Stewartsville, and it was suggested by Committeeman Perez to install rumble strips after some discussions back and forth of different varying options. And at one of the meetings, we received some information that these rumble strips would have a noise impact. And before the committee acted, a letter was sent out to give all of you an opportunity to be heard on it. I mean, I have my own personal views on them. I don't particularly think it's a good idea, but if everybody wants rumble strips, I mean, we're here for you, so, but I think we would like to hear your opinions on that, because it is an issue that will affect you as a local resident. So, with that, I guess, can I have a motion to open up for public comment on the rumble strips?
I'll make the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, anyone wishing to be heard on that topic, just please come up, state your name and your address, and again, as I said in the beginning, especially because of the amount of people here, if I could ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes so that everybody could be heard, that would be great, okay?
My name is Judith Snyder. I live at 109 Washington Street. The proposed rumble strips to reduce speeding on Washington Street is an ill-conceived and ludicrous solution that can only be, a ludicrous solution to a problem that can really only be solved by persistent enforcement of the posted speed limit. After consulting with my neighbors who reside at 107, 111, 114, 118, and 120 Washington Street, who will be directly impacted, I wish to go on record as reporting that we are all opposed to the installation of the rumble strips. Rumble strips may be appropriate to warn drivers on Route 519 that they're crossing the median line. They may also be appropriate on Cemetery Curve to remind you that sharp curves are coming up. But they are definitely not appropriate for a small, narrow, residential township road lined by many historic houses that sit close to the road. The external noise produced by the myriad and varied types of vehicles that ply Washington Street is already terrible. The addition of rumble street strips would make it unbearable. Washington Street is used as a shortcut from 57 to 22. Everything from motorcycles to 80,000-pound tractor trailers fly up and down the street day and night, flaunting the 25-mile speed limit and the 4-ton weight limit more often than not. Imagine, if you will, Committeeman Perez, the noise levels that we already endure being magnified by every one of those vehicles going over rumble strips in rapid succession. Would you like to live under those circumstances, 24/7, 365 days a year? Try to enjoy a peaceful life or get a decent night's sleep under those circumstances. What we have here is a mini hell on wheels in the making. Rumble strips are not a solution to the speeding problem. They are a device to alert drivers that are crossing a median or being oblivious to curbs or other approaching dangers. Speed bumps are usually employed to slow traffic, but of course we cannot use speed bumps in Greenwich due to the type of snow plows used by our road department. There are viable solutions, however, to the problem. The use of enhanced, larger signs posted both coming down Washington Street from Willow Grove and coming up Washington Street from the blinker, emphasizing the 25-mile speed limit and the 4-ton weight limit with only local deliveries permitted would help. In addition, we need enhanced law enforcement that would hit very hard for an extended period of time until the word got out that Greenwich strictly enforces its traffic laws. Since we cannot expect our police department to be deployed all day on Washington Street, a part-time traffic officer could be hired for maybe a period of 6 months, whose only job it would be the oversight of the situations on Washington Street and North and South Main Street, and he or she could function under various shifts between 7 a.m. and 11 at night. The position would probably pay for itself in fines.
Yep.
It would also serve to get the message out that we do not tolerate abuse of our posted traffic laws. In conclusion, I request that the committee reject the proposed rumble strips that would only add to an already miserable situation. No action is preferable to a poorly thought out one. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Just your name and address, please.
Francis Stein, 501 North Main Street. I think you just about took everything I was going to say, except for the fact that I did measure off some of the speed limit signs, and I think in order to help, there are speed limit signs that are posted 1,000 feet apart. On this street in particular, they're only 300 feet apart. On North Main Street coming off of Route 57, they're like 1,000 feet between the 40 mile an hour and the 35 mile an hour. And then between the 35 and the 35, it's 660 feet. Where over here, it's only 300 feet. So I think if they started out on the corner of 57 and North Main Street, instead of having that 40 mile an hour sign, just make it 35 mile an hour right there, let people get acclimated right away before they come over the railroad trestle. And boom, they hit a 25 mile an hour zone. I think if we change the speed limit signs, I think it's going to help the police and slow the traffic down. I agree with everything she just said about the noise, and I don't believe they work. I think they work as a deterrent when you're drifting off the road, things like that, to that nature. In Oxford, they use speed bumps, and I disagree with the snowplow problem because I plow for the state, and if you're 4-foot speed bumps, you can still plow over them. They worked in Oxford so well that they removed them finally because everybody got acclimated to the speed and they don't have an issue with it. That's what I was saying.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure. Name and address, please.
Debbie Riley, 530 North Main, so I'm right in the midst of all the traffic, and I've been a resident for, well, most of my life, so I have seen how the traffic has evolved in our neighborhood. My question to the committee is how many tickets are being, given to speeders on this stretch? Just particularly North Main. I know it's a problem within the whole town as a whole, but just watching the traffic day, night, I'm home pretty much, I'm semi-retired right now. And the traffic, I would say, no one drives 25 on North Main. If police would just beef it up for a while to get the message out, like the other residents have said, to, you know, we could generate some revenue, and, you know, it would ensure that the residents are safe on the streets. I walk my 2 grandchildren, and it's not safe. Once they come off of the bridge and they're flying down through town, as they go around over that little bridge coming into town before the reduced speed limit, it's ridiculous. I mean, this morning I was out walking, and there's a tractor trailer without its trailer coming down flying, and I was like, you know, what's going on? Slow down. Totally disregard. And I mean, it's a problem that's existed for a very long time. There's been other meetings about this, and rumble strips are not the answer. Rumble strips do not slow me down going on Cemetery Curve. I know Cemetery Curve. I'm aware. I mean, I'm driving my speed that I'm going to drive. I'm not saying I'm speeding.
You wouldn't say that with Chief Cousin.
No, but I mean, it really doesn't do anything except make the kids in the backseat laugh. Now, as a resident, I don't know, it's not going to be right outside my door, but I have sympathy and empathy for anyone that has to endure not only the volume of traffic, the speed of traffic, and that sound would just be horrendous. I mean, we live in a nice community, and it just seems like a Band-Aid for a much larger problem. So, I oppose. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Debbie with Wilson Road. Has there been a study done to prove that these slow people down?
Mr. Finelli?
Not here, but there has been lots and lots of studies.
That say
And they
these
work.
slow people down?
Yes.
Have they driven Cemetery Curve?
The ones on Cemetery Curve, not to burst the bubble of the prior comments made, are completely different than what are being proposed here. The ones on Cemetery Curve are what's called transverse rumble strips, which are to alert you to a condition. In the case of Cemetery Curve, to the various curves in the road. These rumble strips are different because what they are is basically, they are stacked striping, which creates a little bump. And what it does is, and they are spaced out, and there's pavement markings that are placed, and then there's signage that is placed. So there's a big slow that's painted on the ground. That's the first set of rumble strips. And then there's a sign, speed limit ahead 25. Then there's another set, and then another set. So all that these do is alert the driver to a condition, and then he focuses on the sign. So they actually do work. I'm not going to comment on the noise. I mean, I can because I have a lot of noise information as well, but they do work based upon the audible impacts of the vehicle over this basically raised striping. They're
How raised is it?
well, there's two different types. It's like 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, but they're stacked within a certain spacing. So it's the typical sounds you hear from going over a rumble strip. Want to see pictures?
Yes.
Okay.
I also have a suggestion. Why don't we put up cameras? That's what I said. Nobody has to be paid. We make money.
It's not there. The short answer is, we can't. It's not legal. That's his short answer.
See, it's this stacked stripe.
So it's less than speed.
Oh, yeah, oh, way less. Oh, it's not speed bump at all. Yeah, no.
And the noise level?
Okay, well, okay.
The people in the summer have their
Well,
windows open and out of the night.
Okay, the situation with how much detail you want me to go into that with the noise situation?
I want to
Very
hear it.
detailed, yes.
It's in front of our house. I want to hear
Going
it.
out late, like, without just talking
All
about
right.
EVs and trying to give examples.
Okay.
Probably the easier
All
way.
right.
Because nobody knows
All right. Let's see if I can make this long enough so that Mrs. Finelli misses
Giants are playing.
All right. She's gonna definitely miss. All right. Part of the problem with evaluating the noise impacts from these types of rumble strips is that most of the studies that were done were based upon highway use of rumble
Exactly.
strips.
Exactly.
And therefore, the decibel levels in the studies, and I brought two with me tonight. Here's one, this was from University of Kansas State that did a study. And here's another one done by, this is from New York. All right. The actual decibel level, there was no study we found, and we did a bunch of research that gauged the decibel levels and the increase on these types of roadways with 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. That's the problem. All the studies were based on higher speed roadways with various types of vehicular traffic, from a typical sedan to a large truck. All right. The reality is this: the decibel level will probably go up in the neighborhood of 10 decibels. Now, what does that really mean? An increase in 10 decibels. Bear with me a second. Okay. An increase of 10 decibels is considered by the human ear to be a significant difference, and that is what most people would consider a loud change in volume. The other part of the reality of this is the intermittent nature of a vehicle going over these, because it's going to be a boom, 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 boom. You know, so the actual decibel increase is not that substantial. It's certainly audible, but the way they're set up, and there's no getting around this, there's 3 sets of 5 rumble strips that are spaced 75 feet apart. That's the way that is the way they are designed to work in this type of application. So you're going to have 15 rumble strips that a vehicle's going to pass over. And to Ms. Winter's question before, I'm convinced they absolutely would work. But there's a offsetting impact, if you want to call it that. Now, I'm not going to hear them from where I live, so it's really that's the issue you face.
That's why we brought them.
No, that was a great idea, actually, to send out the letter and invite them to attend. So that's a quick summary as best I can without getting into any real fancy noise study.
James Morris, 126 Washington Street. The internet's a great thing because you can want to look up rumble strip noise. Everything I read says you don't want them in residential areas because they're annoying. Right now, I have new Henderson windows in my house. I live right on Washington Street. And if a truck goes by and we're talking, it's like people are mouthing, you know? The corn trucks go by, you lose sound. You're watching TV, you gotta put the subtitles on in my living room because of the noise on that street. This is from Michigan. So little research has been performed in residential areas for the use as speed control device. A study in the city of Rochester Hill showed speed reduction up to 2 miles an hour. You know, because of strip. People are gonna get used to going over these, just like they get used to seeing the cops there or not there. I don't think there's been a cop in front of my house this month. I think it's probably in the park at the end of the road there.
That's not
Police
true.
officer. Well, I live there, so. So I think you're gonna put something there that's gonna make noise that you're not gonna hear. But I got 2 bedrooms facing that, my kitchen, my living room both face that street. And right now, the noise comes through. So I think I don't know how many of you guys live in areas where you could test these rumble strips in front of your own houses to see how you like to hear that noise. Because you can get the rubber ones and put them down and hear it. But right now, the noise there is almost unbearable because of the people going over the speed limit. If you're gonna put these rumble strips in, probably get the same volume of noise of people doing the speed limit. And I think it's just gonna be a nuisance for the residents on that street. And you can go on YouTube and look at these strips on a road in a residential area, and the cars are going 25 miles an hour, and you can hear the noise, and you're gonna hear that, 24/7. How many cars go through town right now? A day, do we know? You guys have the little markers out there. The one study says don't use them where you have more than 2,500 vehicles a day going through, because the noise will just be unbearable. So I think you need to do a little bit more research on the noise, and, I don't know where y'all live. Dan, do you live near?
I live right here in South Main.
Yeah, so
that would.
it's gonna be right in front of your house?
Yeah, just about.
So, the other folks, you need to be considerate of that, where it's gonna be and how it's gonna impact you with the noise. So I think really, maybe get the rubber ones and stick them out there for a little bit to see what it does, and see if it does slow people down. That's just my 2 cents.
Gary Hill, 529 North Main Street. Well, I don't agree or disagree with the rumble strip. Something's got to be done, obviously, because there is a lot of speeding. The officers sit in front of my house quite often. They won't be able to anymore because they won't be able to park. But there is. We've been talking about this for a really long time. I think Dan kind of got the blame on something that really wasn't his fault. We've been talking about this, and I think Williams and Greenwich, I think, went to Knowlton Township to sample what they sounded like. Maybe even
take any
maybe you.
action. And we didn't take any action.
Exactly. But at no time have we said no to the rumble strips. I mean, it's just, why has it been so long and we haven't said no to the rumble strips so long ago? It just seemed like Dan was getting thrown under the bus. The big difference between the rumble strips and the cemetery curb, I believe they're 1-inch grooves. We're talking about maybe 3/8 inch paint stacked on top of one another with these. Yeah, it is still going to be noise, but if anybody's driven College Hill before, when you're coming down College Hill, if anybody's seen it, they have those cheaper radar signs, little blue flashing light at you, and it tells you what your speed is. They're really not that expensive. That always gets my attention whenever I see one of those, and oh wow, I am going a little faster than what I should be. How about we compare the cost of those cheap radar signs attached to the speed limit signs versus what the installation of all these rumble strips would be? I think a driver seeing what their actual speed is, you have a better chance of controlling their speed that way than you do just creating the noise. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tricia Reinhardt. I live on 124 Washington Street, and it's going to be right in front of my house, as my neighbor just said. And I did take a survey on the cars that do go by our home, and it's roughly over 400 cars an hour. That's a lot of cars. It's a lot of noise. So I am opposed to this going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be named?
This will be really, really quick. My name's Jerry Hanna. I live on 134 Washington Street. I oppose the rumble strips. I'll be right there, right in front of my house. It's too noisy.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks.
Hi, my name's Kathy Snowbush, 138 Washington Street. I do oppose them. I feel, give them tickets. I don't care. If I'm speeding, give me a ticket. And I think if people got tickets, they got them often enough. Make them expensive too. Point of fact, I don't know if you guys know where Yardley, Pennsylvania is. Nice little town. Their speed limit's 25. They strictly enforce it. I go through that when I go to work. I have to go through Yardley. Well, one time I went for work. I was listening to my book on tape, I did 35. Ticket was $185. That was 3 years ago. I haven't done higher than 25 since then. One ticket, that's all it took. So I think it'll make money for us. We'll get the reputation that we won't tolerate this anymore. The speed limit signs are there. People can read. Just give them tickets. I don't think we should have to spend money for rumble strips or anything else. And then they'll listen, like kids.
Peter Schmidt, 132 Washington Street. The way the rumble strips are laid out, so my neighbor's on one side, my neighbor's on the other, so I'm right in between two sets. I was always under the understanding rumble strips were to avert people. They're dozing off driving, they're on the highway to keep you awake. I don't need any more noise. I want to sleep at night. I would oppose it. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
My name is Diana Cole. I live on 510, 512 North Main Street, Stewartsville, New Jersey, with my husband Frank. Since I've lived here, the traffic has become horrendous. You can't even cross the street to get your mail. Rumble strips are a very bad idea for several reasons. Traffic, noise, water drainage. I've been here before at this township meeting since the sidewalks, and we have discussed the problem with the water drainage. Okay? Put a little tiny groove in the road and have it on a crown of a road and let it divert that water down to my property a little bit more. Who's gonna put in more catch basins on this street to get rid of this water? I'd like to know. I think we ought to hire another cop. But what he makes in tickets, you could pay for his salary and his benefits. Probably have money left over to get the township out of the red. I mean, it's really asinine idea, rumble strips. I want to meet the person that came up with this one. I mean, it's crazy. And I share the opinion of everybody in this room. If you put these rumble strips in, do we get a deduction on our taxes because we have to live under the noise? I really want to know. Because at this point, you're reducing the quality of our lives. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Morris, and I live on 126 Washington Street, and I oppose of having rumble strips built in the road because it's going to take a lot of time to build them in, but like it's going to be also a lot of noise. And like, have you ever been to a concert and like just witnessed the music coming at you really loud, but it's going to be like 10 times annoying and it's not even going to sound cool, so no point.
We can speak to this.
Make it music.
That was a good comment.
I'm John Cordell at 406 Warner Street. I live next to my house, so I haven't had any pretty. You sit there at night with your windows open, you hear cars and trucks through town as it is. So I can just imagine listening to these all night, trying to sleep or anything else. And for this community to live in a certain way of life, I don't think we really need to shut our windows to be able to sleep.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Mike Cater. I live at 107 Washington Street. My bedroom faces Washington Street, so I'm about 30 feet from the street itself. And in the summertime, when I have my window open, like the gentleman before me, I can hear the traffic go up and down, and so the trucks come through there. It's very loud. If you put those rumble strips on there, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep without closing my windows. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name
name is Anne Marie Hurley. I also live at 107 Washington Street, and I physically had to move my bedroom to another room in the back of the house. I oppose this.
Eric Stromish, 138 Washington Street. Rumble strips aren't going to be directly in front of my house, they're going to be down, but noise does travel. Now, you were saying that they're going to be roughly 10 dB louder. Is it for every 3 decibels, doesn't it sound twice as loud to the human ear? So if it's 10 dB, that's 3 times the amount. So it's not almost, it's going to be a real increase.
No, I don't think it's what, I'm not a noise guy, I mean, really. Noise experts are specialty consultants, and I would never want to qualify myself as such.
I don't asking as a reference.
I don't know
You're just
the
saying
answer.
10 dB louder or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think the cameras, and you guys are saying cameras, are saying digital speed signs and everything. There's a certain group of people that come by my house that I just know for a fact they're going to see how fast they can get up that sign. I mean, I'm out there now with my kid out in my front yard, and there's just a certain group of clientele that fly down that road. And when they see me, because I always yell at them to slow down 25, I either get the friendly hello gesture, or they yell at me and they just speed up. So I know right where I'm at is a 35 mile per hour zone, and then right when we get down to, I think it's 132 or so, it's 25. Is there any way possible, just to give them fair warning that it's slowing down, can we move that sign up 25 further up towards Willow Grove? I mean, is that something feasible? But also then police presence. If they want to park in my yard behind my trailer where they can't be seen, go right ahead. More tickets, like they were saying. Every other resident said it's more revenue. If it's a matter of not being able to afford overtime for the police, the tickets, like another resident also said, should be able to subsidize that through the overtime by the extra income coming in. So, I mean, if it's just a matter of not getting the cops out there or not having cops write certain people certain tickets because they'll come to the town and complain, let the cops do their jobs. They're getting paid to do a certain thing. So, I mean, that's what they're there for. Let's utilize them. Other than that, I definitely oppose the rumble strips. I don't mind the truck traffic. I'm used to it. It is loud, but it does wake me up at night, let alone have rumble strips out from my house. So,
Thank you.
that's all.
Darla Morris, 126 Washington Street. I just had a quick question. I don't know if someone can answer, but is the plan to have the rumble strips just on the ingoing, or is it outgoing as well? Does it go the whole way?
Just income.
Well then, what do you do about the speeders zooming out of town?
That's true.
Well,
That's not, I'm looking out my window and I'm seeing people slowing down, going into town, but coming out of town, they're looking at already.
That's what the sidewalk is.
Yep.
The problem is.
Yeah, and that's the sidewalk.
No, I know, that's a good question, actually. The problem is that as you exit town, the speed limits on all 3 roads increase.
But not to 50.
No, I didn't say that, but they increase, they increase. So, the idea and the effectiveness of these is to alert the driver to a lower speed limit. That's really what these things are supposed to do and how they work. It's not slowing the car up. It's to alert the driver, and the signage and other features that's the intent. Hence, the idea of these it's not necessary exiting town because the speed limits are increasing anyway. So what are you gonna alert the driver to? An increased speed limit? I mean,
Right.
no, you wouldn't.
That's
So
right.
hence, it's only going to town.
If it helps, it's only going to help the incoming traffic. It's not going to solve the
No.
issue of the outgoing traffic that's going
It's not even on those
faster
lanes. Correct.
than the incoming traffic
That
that's
is-
already going. So
that is
we still
exactly
need
correct.
police presence there or something there for the outgoing traffic.
Well,
I could.
okay.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing no hands, can I have a motion to close the public comment period? All those in favor? I think, listening to the testimony again, as it started off, this was why, you know, we wanted to hear from you all, because it affects you the most, who reside there. And I would like to make it clear that the voice of the residents has been heard, and to make a motion to, I guess, oppose or to, you know, abandon the recommendation of use of rumble strips on both Washington Street and Main Street, both north and south. Sure. I'm sorry.
Just so everyone understands, you know, this wasn't something that we just were gonna do. You know, this was something that we talked about, and we talked about for quite a while with the engineer and with all of us here. That's the reason why the mayor is saying that we did send a letter to everyone so that you understood what was going on, and if you could come here and voice your opinion, whether you wanted it or not. Now, you know, I live on South Main Street, and the rumble strips are going to be right by my home also. So it wasn't like when I talked about this, I wasn't aware of how this was going to be. But many of us have lived there for a number of years, and we've seen how the traffic in this town has really gotten terrible. You know, we have a limited police force. They do the best that they can. Part of the problem is that people know where they sit. You know, like by me, they sit down by Belfair Farms, and they can see them as soon as they come up the road. And now since the county cut down the tree, you know, they can't even hide behind the tree anymore because it's open there. The same thing for on North Main Street. When on North Main, you know, they're out in the open, people see them, they slow down. So the idea of the rumble strips we talked about, Mike had did some investigating, and we did go out and look at this. We just didn't think of this off of the top of our heads and said, let's throw rumble strips in there. The chief and I went to several towns that had rumble strips in front of residents' homes. We did our own little test. The chief ran over the rumble strips from 25 to 50 miles an hour to see what the sound would be like. Then we went and we knocked on some of the doors, and we spoke to some of the residents. And some of the residents, you know, they weren't crazy about it, but they felt that it did slow down the traffic coming into their townships. We went to what, 2 or 3 towns, chief, with that we checked out?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so, you know, we did try to do what we could do to investigate this. We talked about putting in the
speed humps.
The speed humps, but the county wouldn't allow us to do that. As far as these strips being paid for, these strips were being paid for by the county, not by Greenwich Township.